CS greetings, CS goers. It's me, Axtremes, and you join me and Profeci for something new. We call it Duels. How you doing, Profeci?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, as am I. Although the question is whether we will still be doing fine after what we're about to do. And no, we're not going to dump yogurt on each other's heads in some kind of primitive game where one throws sticky things at each other for disagreeing. But we are going to disagree and disagree rather heavily in this new show concept called Duels. So what it's all about, we get 3 minutes each to explain our argument and try to make it as convincing as possible. And I guess it's up to you to decide what you believe might possibly be the true analysis, the right way to go about things. Prof and I agree about things a little bit too much, so we thought we'd disagree, have a go at each other, maybe have a little bit of banter and a little bit of rivalry. So it should be fun. You'll see the time limit pop up at the top of the screen as we cover each question, and we're going to be talking about the Eleague Major, the round of 8, the Legends stage, the Boston bit in the stadium, the 8 teams, and we're going to ask a few questions about that and try to unpack our arguments. That doesn't necessarily mean we believe either side of this either. We should stress that, right, Prof?
I mean, you can believe whatever you want to. Doesn't make it true.
But it is possible to argue any viewpoint, just about, if you're good enough at it, right?
Should be.
Cool. So let's take it away with Duels. Let me quickly show you guys the bracket here, so you can just see quickly what we're actually talking about. Let me bring it up in the browser view here. So there we go. We got the bracket, the round of 8. We're not going to talk about all the other stages. There's been plenty of analysis about it, plenty of things spoken about it as well. But we got FaZe versus Mouse Sports, Navi versus Quantum Bellator Fire, G2 versus Cloud9, and SK versus Fnatic. Those are the matchups, and we're going to be asking a few interesting questions about those and trying to argue our viewpoints on that. So the first thing, and I will start with FaZe versus Mouse. I will contend that FaZe will massacre Mouse. Mouse stand no chance. No chance in hell. That's what they've got. Vince McMahon.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. So I've got 3 minutes to come up with this argument, and I'm going to do my very best to try to reason this out before Prof eviscerates me, most likely. Let's see how this goes. So, 3 minutes starts now. And so, talking about FaZe. FaZe have been a dominant team throughout 2017. They've obviously had their lineup changes, but the current lineup is destined to be one of the all-time great teams. They're destined to win this major. This is their day in the sun. This is their time to show up on the international stage and claim the greatest prize. They've already proved in beating SK that they are the ascendant team at this major. And while they may have had their struggles going into the new challenges stage where they were trying to overcome a few other teams in the best of one stage, they made it through despite the little hiccup against the Sharks of Vegas squadron. They came through stronger. Carrigan showed his incredible pedigree as an in-game leader, his experience in bringing teams to this stage of a competition and helping see them through. The nerves seem calm. They're looking locked and loaded ready in that game versus SK. Guardian just looked amazing. He was absolutely on point all over the map as well, moving and being aggressive and playing like Guardian used to in RV a couple of years ago. Some of those halcyon days of the SK versus an RV matchups in grand finals in 2016. That's how he looked again. He's over the wrist injury. Olaf also showing up pretty well. Also seems to be over his injury worries as well. It's a major. Olaf knows how to win these. He's going to bring that experience to this team to help them overcome a minor opponent like Mouse Sports. They're like a FaZe light, really. Mouse Sports. They've got similar elements, but all of them are not as good. Essentially, if we look at FaZe individually, Guardian, one of the most dominant AWPers that we've seen in CS. Not quite a Kenny S, but one of the very best. We've got Olaf Meister, who's an incredibly clutch player, an incredibly aggressive player, a very consistent player who's getting back to his best. We've got Nico, who's one of the world's very best T-side BS Joker cards. You know, we don't have a T-side. Let's send Nico out and he'll just wreck everybody anyway. So we don't need strategy. We just need Nico, second best player of the year, based on what HLTV said. We've also got Rain, who's also in the top 10. I believe he was 5th, if I recall correctly. He's an incredible player, incredible with the AK, incredible with the Deagle, and with the pistol, super deadly as well. That P250 wrecks faces on those pistol rounds. such a great player and one of the best in-game leaders of all time, I'd say, after they win this major. It's got to be Carrigan. He's had his troubles in these sorts of stages of tournaments, but it's not going to happen again. Versus Mouse, you got Oscar, who's an amazing player, but he's not as amazing as Guardian. You got Rops, who's young and inexperienced. Despite his skill, he's not going to be able to hang with the likes of Guardian and Olaf Meister and those sorts of players. Stiko isn't a great player. He's not going to show up here. Chris J is a new in-game leader. He needs time to settle in. He's not going to have it because he's against one of the very best teams in the world. It's not going to happen. Sorry, Mouse Sports, you're out. And I have 5 seconds left. I'm freaking amazing. I'm a genius.
I mean, Kanye is also a genius, so I don't know if you really want to go down that route.
Come on, you can't argue with that, Prof. Seriously, there's no way you can argue against
I can
FaZe.
argue that fairly easily.
Really?
Because
Really?
yes, I can.
Okay, well
actually.
then your time starts now.
All right, so the last time Mouse played FaZe in a best of 3, if you remember, it was actually the ECS final. And in that final, Mouse, who was expected to get blown out by FaZe, did not, in fact, get blown out by FaZe. They beat FaZe on their map, and they only lost in overtime on the next 2. And both times, it looked as though FaZe really struggled to deal with Mouse. On top of that, they have Oscar. You mentioned that maybe he's not as good as Guardian, but he certainly, I think, is more consistently playing well against Guardian. Well, sorry, he's playing better and more consistently better at this point than Guardian is, since Guardian does have the how can I say, the safety net of a very, very good set of players. But the thing that I'm really most going to stress here is that Mouse is going to get the map that they really want to play. They do enjoy, they're one of the few teams, in fact, that do enjoy Nuke, which means that FaZe, who almost always bans Cobble first, will almost certainly have to play Nuke, a map that they rarely play. They have played it on a couple of occasions, haven't looked fantastic on it. And I do think that gives Mouse a very, very good ace in the hole if necessary. So FaZe will be playing on Mouse's map. And then if you look at Mouse will almost certainly probably play the same kind of maps in the next round. They'll go to Inferno. They've looked good on Inferno. They haven't been unbeatable on it, but they're certainly a team that can contest very, very well with the way that FaZe plays. Also, Mouse has a far more legitimate double AWP setup than FaZe does. They have they have Chris J as well as Oscar, and FaZe does not have what I would consider a fantastic AWPer. Yes, they do use Nico, but Nico is very, very much more flashy as an AWPer than sort of track and hold aimer. And I do think that you'll more consistently get play out of the Mouse Sports lineup than FaZe, whereas FaZe shown to have some very, very lacking T sides. Yes, they did beat SK on the T side of Cash, but again, if you remember, neither FaZe nor SK actually play very much on Cash at this point in time. On top of that, people will have said that they've maybe gotten over their SK mental hold, and they certainly did look like they could beat them. But then again, they've never really struggled to beat SK in best of ones. It's only ever in series play that they've really, really suffered. And again, it was on Cash, a map that play. So I do believe that Mouse is probably going to be better off here because they have a map pool that matches up very, very well with with FaZe. They play both Inferno, Mirage, as well as Nuke, and those are maps that FaZe is either good on or doesn't play at all in the case of Nuke. But Mouse being good on them has shown that it's not a complete hard matchup. They don't just completely straight lose out. So I do think that they will be fairly solid over there. And then
time's up.
Okay.
Wrecked. I should have warned you, right? But I wanted to wreck you. So dead. It's over. It's over, Prof. So I vehemently disagree. And also, I disagree on the basis of the fact that Sunny looks like a European gangster with his little earring. Nobody like that deserves to go to semi-final. Just saying.
Hard analysis, that.
Hard analysis, yes, absolutely. Same way I do my casting with the monitor off, I do my analysis completely blind and with no direction whatsoever. Not at all. Okay. Not at all. Not at all. FaZe are going to eviscerate them, man. Not going to happen.
Don't think it's going to happen. I think Mouse probably comes close, but I don't think they're going to get wrecked at all.
You don't think they're going to get wrecked?
No.
Fine. I guess we'll see. So the other point that we'll move on to here is Navi versus Quantum Bellator Fire. The Quantum have been, or QBF if we want to call them, or QB Fire, depending on which caster happens to be casting them and whether they are or are not wearing a wetsuit, basically. They've been one of the surprises of the tournament. They got through. They were probably the weakest seed in the qualifier by a long shot, and yet they've shown some incredible strength, beating some amazing teams, and looking capable maybe of something, is what Prof seems to think. And honestly, on my side, I don't. I think they're going to get utterly wrecked, just like they wrecked VP and all of VP's fans' dreams, never to reappear again on the stage. Quantum Bellator Fire will never reappear on this stage, and I think you're wrong, Prof.
Well, I can already break your first argument there by saying that they'll never reappear on the stage, because they are actually, in fact, qualified for the next major by dint of making it to the stage. So there is your first point gone.
Okay, I'll start your time. Go for it.
And I'll start with this, is that I do think that QBF is a team that's a lot more dangerous than people give them credit for. I think that the Navi team has shown to be very much a sink or swim team. I don't think that QBF is reasonably going to beat them in a best of 3, but I do think that QBF has the smallest of outside chances. They've played a lot of the CIS region, and I mean, they will have played teams similar to how Navi will have played. Obviously, Navi has more structure and far better players, but I don't think that that is something to be dismissed out of hand. Also, if you look at the way Navi has played, is that, I mean, when I say sink or swim, they have not once gone to double-digit rounds in either their wins or their losses. So they either win by a huge margin or just get absolutely wrecked. And I think that is a very, very dangerous precedent to have in a game against Quantum Bellator 5, because QBF has shown the ability to dig themselves out of a hole. Played against one another, it did go in favor of Navi, but that was an Inferno. And if you look at Navi's recent games at the major, they've played a ton of Inferno. It's in fact their most played map after... Actually, no, it is their most played map. They've played it 3 times. They've won on it, I think, each time they've played. Yes, each time they've played. But they have lost on a map like Nuke to Gambit. So I do think that to dismiss QBF out of hand for Navi is very, very dangerous. I do think that the Navi players in general, outside of Simple, have not been very, very consistent, which you can see in the fact that they will drop a game on occasion. And I think that QBF has a very, very good young player in Quick, who seems to be able to consistently deliver. They have a reasonably good AWPer in Waterfalls, who seems also to be quite consistent. And Navi doesn't really have a consistent AWPer. They do have Simple, who can be extremely explosive, but Simple has also been known to sometimes push his teams into areas that can actually end up, maybe not losing them the game, but certainly putting themselves in a very, very tough spot. Also, we've seen a much better play from Edwin Zeus. That is hardly the most reliable thing in the world. And it just seems as though Navi is not a very, very clutch team. And I think if Quantum Bellator Fire can get off to a good start, then Quantum Bellator Fire can certainly put Navi under pressure, and Navi will not do well in that kind of pressure. They still haven't figured out the best way to get their players.
30 seconds.
And I do think that Quantum Bellator Fire probably will maybe not take... Well, I think they could reasonably take a map, quite likely something like Cache, if they do decide to go there. Navi has historically always avoided Cache, but they also have historically avoided Nuke. So I do think that QBF at the very least will get a map that they enjoy, and Navi will not be in the best position to not be in the best position to actually contest them on all the good maps. So Navi probably wins at the end, but QBF should be fine.
Well, you spent a lot of time talking about Navi and not QBF in your argument for how QBF should be able to do something. Is there trouble here, Prof? Do you really believe what you're saying? Who knows?
It's up to you. Prove me wrong.
Do I really have to? This is going to be easy. Just putting it out there. You've made a case for QBF, but I don't think a case can be made for QBF at all. I will start my time. Now that I've, gotten a few shots in outside of my allotted time now. So, Navi versus QBF. Prof didn't really mention anything in the way of players. He mentions Waterfalls, who's a somewhat okay AWPer. He's mentioned Quick, who's got a stupid name. That's all they got. They don't have much beyond that. Navi, what have they got? they've got Simple. That's all you need. You need Simple. You need Simple to go God mode, to go out there, to peek all the audacious angles, to not hold an angle like a proper AWPer, just to run out into the open and Mirage on mid and kill 3 people with an AWP, despite the fact that they're all shooting at him. That's what Simple does, and that's what he's going to do against these shitters. He's going to wreck them. He's going to fist them. He's going to do all sorts of horrible things to them. And of course, the rest of Na'Vi, maybe they'll show up, maybe they won't. Doesn't matter. Simple will destroy them. He's one of those players who always shows up no matter the game, and he particularly shows up against weaker opposition. And these, my friend, are weaker opposition. They're going to get destroyed. Edward is back to his powers. He no longer has butt face. He's grown his hair back out. He's got a beard again. He's like Samson. His powers have returned. His powers are not considerable, but they're more than what QBF actually have to offer. He's got the experience. Zeus is an experienced in-game leader. He knows what the team needs to do to beat a minnow like QBF. He's not going to allow them to be in the situation that QBF can upset them, especially not in a best of 3 where map pool comes into it. And hey, Na'Vi might not have much of a map pool, but again, they got Simple. They got Flamey as well, who's shown up nicely at this major, more than he's been in recent times. And they've got Electronic, the new edition. The guy's helping Simple, being an aggressor as well, initiating contact for the team and helping Simple to be in the positions that he can be to destroy the opposition. And yeah, you said maybe they had a few losses that weren't exactly close, but this is not going to be a loss. This is going to be a win, and it's not going to be close. I'd be surprised if QBF actually get double figures in either of the 2 maps, because this ain't going to a 3rd map, baby. It ain't happening. The coming kings of CIS CSGO are not QBF. It's Na'Vi. The old dogs are getting back to the top, and they're getting there thanks to the prodigies, the young guys that are in the team who are going to help them overcome these young guys. And maybe some of these guys have got some potential. As you said, there's a few positive points for QBF, but it's going to go in, be one of those things that they'll bring in the next major. They'll come get wrecked at the next major as well, because they're not going to do anything between these competitions. Because let's face it, all these teams like QBF in Vegas Squadron, we don't see them at top tier competitions in between majors because they're not good enough to go to them. They're good enough to upset in best of 1 circumstances where teams are not necessarily at their best, but they're not good enough to best a top team in a best of 3 where map pool actually comes into it, where big game temperament comes into it, as well as when the considerable skill of the god, the demigod that is Simple, is factored in.
Reasonable. I did also say, though, that Edward is hardly somebody that you can rely on. So
He's got his powers back, man. I mean, he grew
he?
his hair out.
Does really?
He's like Samson, dude.
Have you checked his stats at this event? Do yourself a favor and go check those stats, and then come and tell me that he is going to definitely pitch up in the games that matter.
He's a talisman for the team, man. He doesn't need to frag things.
And as you said, like, Simple goes crazy, right? No matter the game. I mean, there was that 16-2 that he went crazy in, and they still lost 16-2. So.
Oh, cutting me deep here, Prof. But don't worry. Simple's going to cut Quantum Vellator deep. They're going to get castrated,
Simple can't carry 4 dead bodies, and I do have a feeling that Quantum Vellator Fire is going to do some damage.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm declaring myself the winner of that because it's my show, so screw you.
Do what you will. We shall be proved on game day.
We shall be proved on game day. Of course, game day, for you guys who don't know, it's Friday. So I think it starts at 5 p.m. on Friday in... Central Africa time, I guess, is what we call it, or is that GMT +2? So that is when it's happening, and that is when Quantum Vellator Fire's miracle run will no longer be a miracle. It will just be a run that ended abruptly, running into a wall named Na'Vi. It's going to happen. So next on the agenda, we got G2 versus Cloud9, and what is happening in that?
G2 will be spanking Cloud9 all the way home.
Wow, okay, well, tell me all about that. Your time starts now.
Right, so firstly, we're going to start with the map pool, because Cloud9's undoubtedly the strongest map that they have available to them is probably Train. And Cloud9 is going to be not able to do that because G2 actually auto-bans Train. So The second strongest map for Cloud9 is in fact Mirage. Now, G2 historically hated Mirage more than anything else, and they've actually become relatively good on it in recent times. And that means that neither of the two maps that Cloud9 would have wanted to play are actually going to be available to them or a strength for them in this matchup. So they already start off on the wrong foot there. Then if you can look at the players, G2 has a far better lineup of players. All of them seem to be doing very, very well. But most importantly, we have both Shox and KNES for the first time ever seemingly doing well in the same team. Now, if we look at Cloud9, they don't have that at all. They have a player in Skadoodle who's never gotten to the quarterfinals of a major, and I can't see him going any further this time. They have one of their best players in Stewie has not had a consistently good tournament, and I don't think that's going to hold going into the G2 game. The last time G2 did play Cloud9, they absolutely spanked them going to cash. So I just can't see anywhere the Cloud9 can actually go in these first few maps that will prevent G2 from absolutely destroying them in just about every map. And I mean, apart from just those star players that I mentioned, the whole of Cloud9 has been relatively inconsistent. They do well in some maps. They still haven't figured out how the best way to use Stewie. Automatic hasn't looked good. I mean, the only player that has actually looked good consistently is Tarek, and I can't see Tarek being good enough to carry an entire game against some of the best in the world. The French have massive momentum, and we've seen that when they do have tournaments where they go on these streaks, they tend to win the tournament outright, and I just haven't seen Cloud9 even come close to that. The last time before this tournament that G2 played Cloud9, they actually spanked them again 2-0 in a match. So the evidence just keeps piling up here. The AWP duel doesn't favor them because KNES is probably the best AWPer ever. Skadoodle has historically for the last year or two not been in the best of form at all. So I cannot see anywhere that Cloud9 has anywhere to win. They don't win on map, they don't win on skill, they don't win on current form, and they certainly will not win on just crazy plays because the French have that down pat. They also are not fantastic at force buying. They have certainly the automatic of Deagle, but the Deagle of automatic, but G2 are the guys that made famous the force buy, and I can't see Cloud9 being able to contend with G2 force buys, and that is my point done and dusted. Good luck, my friend.
15 seconds left is fair. Wow, that was impressive, but ultimately misguided, I'd say. Misguided, Prof. You're wrong.
Tell me why.
This is a tournament that is happening in America. It's the Eleague Major in Boston. There will be a partisan crowd there supporting Cloud9 every step of the way, and we know in any sport how home ground advantage galvanizes the team. The last time we had an American team this far in a major was MLG Columbus 2016, and Team Liquid were pushed forward with the shouts of USA, USA. You know, the partisan crowd, America. There's a great song about it from the movie Team America. It's wonderful. I encourage all of you to go check it out. It's a real anthem that shows us why America will win in every circumstance and situation over all threats, foreign and domestic. And these are foreigners coming onto the domestic shores of the Americans, and probably they're going to surrender because they're French. They're French surrender monkeys. They will come to the bastion, the fortress of American CSGO, and they will be repelled with their tails between their French cheese-eating, baguette-eating legs. It's not going to happen, Prof, because if we look at the players on the server, the Cloud9 players right now are hitting a rich vein of form. Stewie is back to his audacious best. He's pushing through smokes. He's the smoke criminal. These Frenchies are going to pop smokes everywhere. Stewie's going to run through those smokes and just pop their heads. And it's just not going to happen for G2. They've crumbled so many times deep in tournaments. Cloud9 have too. And you did make a good point that Skadoodle's never made the top 8 before, but now is his time. It is his destiny. It is written in the stars, Prof, that he's about to go further in a tournament than any Skadoodle has ever got before. He's already done that, and he's going to do more. He's shown incredible clutch ability at this major, even with the AWP. Because, of course, his team's aggressive. Maybe they die a little bit early, but Skadoodle's there to save the day, and he does it consistently. Automatic, maybe not at the levels that we've seen from him in the past year, but he's still supporting the likes of Stewie and the ascendant Tarek, the god that is Tarek, both the in-game leader who has all the strats and the numbers running through his head and is also able to just pop all the heads on the server, 360 no-scope everyone. He's incredible right now, and he's going to continue that good form and put himself and his team in the positions to win. Their fast T-sides are going to smash the relatively passive CT side defense from G2. Yeah, maybe Kenny S goes off on a foraging expedition or two, but he's going to get punished by the sheer aggression, the speed of the CT side, of the T sides from the American behemoths that are Cloud9. And then we've also got to talk about Rush, who's shown some incredible ability as an entry player. He's been looking really good lately. Maybe he wasn't so good in the past few months, but right now, Rush is one of the better players at the major. This team is going to come together, galvanized by the crowd behind them, pushing them forward. The French are going to surrender, and Skadoodle will best Kenny S because he is a turret, a robot, a machine, and he hits everything.
I'd just like to point out that for 30 seconds, Axtremes spoke about Team America World Police rather than why Cloud9 would beat G2, and I think that's probably going to be enough to slant the victory to me.
America, F yeah. Wow, okay, you just wrecked me there, so... I don't know, Prof. I guess we'll have to see what do South African fans believe, what do the international people who are watching this believe. Is it Cloud9's time to shine, or is it G2 Ascendant? I don't know. I mean, saying G2 Ascendant reminds me of Jupiter Ascendant, considering that was such a terrible movie. I'm now associating that with G2, and therefore G2 are shit.
You see, once again, like completely inane movies that he's somehow collating as though this is going to be the reason why Shocks and friends are going to lose the game to Cloud9.
They're French. They push up daisies and white surrender flags. It always happens.
You say so.
Okay, we shall see. We shall see. Let us know what you guys think, of course. And going into the last match, we've got SK versus Fnatic. And, well, can Fnatic knock over SK? SK are the team people said was the best team in the world, but they're playing with a sub. I don't know, man. What do you think? I think Fnatic's got this.
Nope.
Do you think I'm crazy?
I think you are.
Well, I will tell you why I'm not. And my time has already started. Okay, wait, I've got to hurry on this. Well, Fnatic, we're talking about a relatively new lineup, but we're talking also about players who are incredibly experienced in the latter stages of a major. Guys who have the experience of getting two under the belt. That would be Flusher and JW. And talking about those players, they bring in the experience, they bring in the knowledge of what's needed deep in a tournament against an opponent who's maybe more fancied. Because I'm not crazy. I do know SK is more fancied, but Fnatic are a team that a lot of people are seeing as a dark horse for this tournament, a possibility. A lot of people didn't think they would make it this far, but Fnatic are going to beat SK. They could even go all the way here, man. They've, again, got the experience, but they've also brought in some youth, some explosiveness in the form of Lekro, the Deagle God. He's proved to be a pretty good player, considering, you know, at points he was considered to be dropped from both Godsent and Fnatic in the past. He's shown himself worthy of performing at this level, and yeah, he's filling some big boosts. He's filling Olofmeister boots, but let's face it, yeah, at the time he joined the team, Olofmeister was sort of a spent force, and Lekro was the coming king in that space. We haven't had a lot of reason to be excited about Swedish players aside from maybe a Rez and a Draken lately, and Lekro is one of those guys that I'd put up there as a guy who's got the explosiveness, that he's got the aim to bust bomb sites open and help his team. JW has also been given the freedom to go and do the JW things, to go and be the random playmaker that he used to be in the past, and he seems to have also gotten some of that swagger back in the way he plays, because he did start playing a little bit more scared. He did stop using the AWP, and now he's using the AWP in the team, and he's an effective force. And that's not mentioning the new in-game leader, Golden. He's the golden boy. He's come in and he's changed the way they play. He's added structure where they lacked before. And yeah, they don't have the skill of that 2015 lineup quite anymore, but they do have structure that team lacked at times, and the structure is what's going to help them get through against this level of opponent. Also, factoring into that, Crims has been absolutely mighty of late, and a Crims who's mighty means the CT side is mighty, a B-bomb side is impregnable, and let's face it, SK don't exactly have the best B-bomb sites around these days, so I think the T side wildcardedness, the way that Fnatic are going to approach it, is going to undo some of SK's Fortress CT sides. They're not going to be the Fortress anymore. CT side, I'd be a little bit worried for Fnatic, but I feel like with Crims on form again, they're definitely going to step up in that space. They're going to take it to SK, and it's not going to be a one-sided SK victory at all. Fnatic can beat them. I don't think Fnatic are going to knock them off their feet and destroy them. It's going to be close, but Fnatic have got the Wiles. They've got the Flasher who can see through walls. They've got JW who's the wild card. They've got an in-game leader. They've got all the pieces required to take it to SK.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby. I mean, you got a couple of things wrong in there because JW and Fnatic and Flasher both
do I
have
start your time
3.
now?
No. JW
3,
and
you're
Flasher
right.
both have 3, not 2. So, I mean, he can't even get his stats right, guys. Think about that for a second.
Wow, okay, go for it. You got your free shot in, now your time started.
All right, so SK Gaming, probably one of the most skill-stacked lineups anywhere in the world, probably the second most after FaZe. And here's the first and most important thing. You said that Flusher and JW are clutch. JW's never really been very clutch. Flusher certainly was. And, I mean, he was one of the highest-rated players of all time at the Major. Until, of course, a young man by the name of Marcelo David came along, a.k.a. called Zera, a.k.a. the best player in the world, a.k.a. SK's primary star. You then also mentioned that JW would be a sort of playmaker. You know, SK has one of those who just happens to be the third best player in the world according to HLTV, a young man by the name of Fur. So, I mean, you've basically got better versions. You have better versions of the same players on SK, and then you factor in the rest of the team. Is that you mentioned Lecro and his Deagles, but I haven't seen Lecro on rifles very much. And I certainly have seen that and more from players like Fallen, from players like Phelps, I mean, I'll leave out Taco for this conversation, but by and large, he's far much better than what. The team as a whole is far better than what Fnatic can put up. Then if you look at what Fnatic also has is that you're fairly certain of what kind of maps they're going to be playing. And one of those is that they will never play Nuke. Now, if you know anything about SK also auto bans Nuke, which means that SK can now just ban the strongest map of Fnatic. And that means that Fnatic has nowhere to go once those map vetoes start coming out. On top of that, they also have very little idea of how SK is going to play. Remember, SK has famously stated that they will not be practicing with Phelps in the lead up to the Major, which they haven't. So you basically have the 4 maps that SK have played at the Major, and that's all you can go off. So you can't anti-strat them, which is one of the advantages somebody like Golden would provide you. And we're talking about clutch teams as a whole. I mean, SK is famous, much like the old Fnatic of 2015, that SK can win games where they have no business winning, where they're down in the doldrums and they somehow grind out a win and are consistently able to do that. I think that overall, SK has a better map pool, even though we've seen less of it, because there's no way that somebody like Fallen would allow the map pool to go into areas that he wouldn't be certain of. So until they can figure out the map pool, Fnatic does not have a very strong place to go to, and I don't think Fnatic has any chance here against SK. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I don't think that Fnatic is going any further than the quarterfinals, and they will not be the dark horse for the tournament.
Wow, finishing with 3 seconds to go there. Well, I must not call you out on your incorrect facts as well. Because HLTV interviewed Cold Zero prior to the start of the tournament, and he said, and I quote, "We practiced for 2 days with Phelps."
2 days.
2 days.
Reasonable, right? Despite all the weeks worth of practice that they would have done leading into the Major.
So you're also contending that Fnatic won't know what to expect. Of course they will. Phelps played with this team for how long this year?
Certainly.
I mean, they won 5 titles?
Do you really believe that a in-game leader like Fallen would have just gone like, we're going to use the exact same strats as like 7 months ago?
Of course he did. They only had 2 days to prepare.
If you say so. But actually, no, I can contest that as well, because it was explicitly stated by the team that Phelps would be put into Bolts' roles.
And how's that going to work? I mean, a supportive player and a highly aggressive playmaker. That's what he's
told to do. He will be running Bolts' roles, which means that you now have an entirely different player playing in the same positions, but making very, very different decisions as to when and where to push and how to play. So
A team with
It's
a
just
stand-in
nullified.
is going to make the semi-final. They're going to beat
The
Fnatic.
team with two of the best players in the world in a stand-in
And
is
a
going to
Taco,
make.
come on.
Taco does what he needs to make Cold
Golden's
Zero
better than
better.
Taco.
Maybe, but nobody's better than Cold Zero.
Well, and you talked about clutch. Crims is one of the most clutch players pretty much of all time.
SK's clutch is a team, not one player. And Crims is not clutch. Flusher was clutch.
I don't know. So, viewers, tell us what you think. Do you think we were right or wrong about either of our viewpoints? Again, they don't necessarily represent exactly what we think, but we thought it might be fun to argue hard about either sides and either ways you can look at these particular issues. And I thought it was pretty fun. I got pretty savage there a couple times as well, which is great. I love it. And you're wrong, Prof. Just saying.
You can say whatever you like. Doesn't change the truth.
So you got the Eleague Major coming up. Check it out. This has been Duels. Let us know on Twitter what you think about the show concept, whether you agree with me, tweet me at axtremes, or whether you agree with Prof on some of the points, tweet him at Profeci Gaming. Let us know what you think. And in the meantime, enjoy the Major. Hope the ex-god himself smiles upon you and allows you to get some amazing cobblestone souvenir drops, including unboxing a Kenny S Orp. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe the gods will favor you as they will favor me because I've been right about absolutely every point and I'm a predictions god. So this has been Jules. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Axe up.